talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome to View from the West podcast, the podcast talking Illinois high school football on the western side of the state. I'm Greg Armstrong, joined by my co-host, the man who's getting us verified, getting us the blue check mark on X, Mitch Stormer. Whether we want it or not, we're paying Elon the money now, so give him the backstory. Give the people the story here.
We did not talk about this on the Instant Reacts, and this is not something that we dealt with in years past. So typically on a Friday, I don't know the number. I probably send out anywhere 100, 150 posts probably on a Friday night. So we've been doing that for years. We are already late into the night on Friday with all the weather delays and such, and things are coming down to the wire where final scores are coming in, this, that, and the other. And I was trying to repost Guy Derek's announcement that their game was getting pushed to Saturday. Well, when I tried to do that, I got an alert on X that said we had reached our daily limit and we needed to upgrade. So throughout this last couple of years, we've refused to pay for X. We've, been able to do everything that we need to without doing it, without getting a blue check mark, but we certainly were not going to risk not being able to provide coverage for the rest of the night. So we paid $4 for this month. We paid $4 for next month, and it'll jump up after that. But yeah, that was a new one. So now we are blue check verified on X. So if that means we can monetize this thing, we'll see. But we will need our listeners' help. I need some tweets to go viral, guys.
That's right.
Yeah. But again, that was such a surprise. But I texted you, and immediately it was like, yes, we got to do it. We got to do it right now. And we were able to get right back on track.
Let me tell you, that was just one more thing in a series of continuing issues on Friday night.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit more about that as the show goes on, but it was a doozy of a night for me. If you want to hear all about it, that's a good way to plug the Instant Reacts podcast from week number 1. It was delayed, and so that was a part of, I knew I wanted to keep messages going or keep posting on X because I wanted to let people know when we were going live, right? So without being able to post on X, I didn't know a way that we'd be able to communicate that we're going live later than normal. So it was a whole thing. So
again, we're paying for it figuratively and literally. So you know what? we move on. We press forward.
Exactly. No, so all right, that's, like I said, good way to go back. Check out the Instant Reacts podcast. We'll talk a little bit about the results from Friday, but that's going back, listening to that show is a real good way to, a lot of times, this week was unique because it was in real time. We're learning about games as they go final. So a lot of shows will get a little bit of that, but most of the time they're kind of done when we hit record or when we hit that go live button. So this was kind of a unique experience.
Yeah, games were barely in the second half by the time that we normally go live. So we were pretty deep into that Instant Reacts as we were trickling in. The last 2 or 3 games went final. So yeah, that was a Reacts like another, I think.
Yeah. Well, you know what else? Speaking of X and the posts I've seen on there recently, have you seen in the last couple days, people are sharing the merch they're getting from the View from the West store. So I know that Philip Johnson and Dylan Powell, both out in Kewanee, have gotten their gear. So if you've already ordered, those orders are coming in. They're being shipped out. They're being delivered. And the good news is the shop is remaining open. So if you haven't jumped in there yet, or you forgot about it, or if you just procrastinated a little bit, which I'll be honest, I've kind of forgotten. I've kind of forgotten myself to go in and buy myself something. So
I haven't forgotten. I just have not done it.
Okay. Yeah, fair. So the store is still open for people like Mitch and I who are late to the game and procrastinating getting it done. Go out to the merch store. There's a link right here in the description of this episode. Go find yourself. We got some great merch. I saw a picture of the Instant React shirt. It looks awesome.
Yeah, that's the one I've got. Plenty of shirts. I do not have an Instant React shirt, though, so that'll be the one that I'm getting. Still debating between a hoodie and a T-shirt, but probably a hoodie will be the way I go. So, yeah, it's a great logo. Look great on a shirt.
Yep. So go check that out. A bunch of new stuff. Still ideas in the works. You know that Abby's always willing to put up with our ideas. So we're still working through some cool, I'd call like playoff theme shirts. Some kind of, traditional looking playoff themed t-shirts. That's coming maybe at the midpoint of the season as we start gearing up towards playoff time. So that's in the works. We'll keep that in the back, keep that in the back of your head and be ready for that one. But Mitch, we're speaking of Breed Loves. Give us the rundown. Give us what they need to know. The people already know.
They sure do. Tonight's episode is brought to you by our friends at Breed Love Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and just like Greg said, online team stores. They provide all the same sporting goods services as the big nationwide companies, but with a faster turnaround. And their uniform pricing is a fraction of the cost you're probably used to. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. Check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
I got to give a shout out, too, to Breedlove sales rep Netzi. He's a huge high school football fan. He was at the kickoff party. I got to meet him, but he's been texting over the last couple years through Abby. He didn't have my number. I didn't have his number. So he would text through Abby, letting us know things we needed to know about the show. And he had some critiques. He has some, things he needs to get off his chest about what we say and, the thoughts that we get out there. But all in good fun. I love talking to him. Now he's got my number. He was the one who chimed in and gave us the info on the end of the Monmouth-Roseville game with Erie Prophetstown. So
okay.
Yep. So good to hear from him. We appreciate the info because we were already live in the Instant React. So it's hard to get info, when we're kind of scrambling around during the show, and he helped us out there with the text. So that was great. So, all right, Mitch. Well, we're going to jump into week 2 here in a minute. Before we do, we talk about the viewpoints. So they're kind of like our headlines for the week after week 1, heading into week 2. Of course, if it's the first thing we do, the viewpoints, it's brought to you by First Wealth Financial Group. Head to firstwealthfinancialgroup.com to get in touch with their team. We've kind of referenced that Friday night for me was kind of a clunker. It was, Mitch, I am not a meteorologist. I'm not sure if we've discussed this.
Right.
I did my best to be a meteorologist on Friday afternoon and figure out where I could avoid weather, and I failed miserably because I end up at Erie Prophetstown in Monmouth-Roseville, a game that looks like it's going to start on time, and as soon as the national anthem is over, they call it for what starts as 30 minutes, what ends up being an hour plus. So I'm there, I get no highlights at all. Meanwhile, I start driving back towards the Quad Cities, and what do I hear? Bureau Valley and United played their whole first half. I could have been getting highlights. That's the game I skipped because I thought the weather was going to be bad there. So I'm giving up this meteorology gig. It's not worth it, So frustrating.
To be fair, you sent that radar of what it was going to look like out in Manlius, and it looked awful. So
it did.
I have no doubt that you made the right call. That's just, it's kind of a look into what goes into a Friday night from a media perspective, that things like this happen, and that's there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. So for as challenging as Friday night was, let me tell you that Saturday afternoon, heading out to Riverdale and Princeton, that made up for it entirely. It was, I had a great time out in Riverdale. Brian Stocking was there in the house. Nick Bull was there watching the game. You also had Greg Pruis. He's a fellow Morrison Mustang, Mitch. He was walking the sidelines with me, kind of, he was my intern, we'll call him. He was helping me kind of keep notes and maybe just keep me company, as we walk the sidelines. But it was a ton of fun out there. And then Riverdale gets the win, and we'll talk about kind of what that win means kind of in the big picture of things here. But Riverdale gets the win, and just standing over on the sidelines, I'm hearing from Riverdale people who are glad that I'm there covering the game. I talked to Lena Creer, so she's the mom of Abram Creer, the quarterback at Riverdale. Also, her husband is an assistant coach on the Riverdale staff, so she's very connected in. Mitch, she's obsessed with the podcast. She can't get enough.
Perfect.
Yep. So we love it. We truly appreciate hearing from people and how excited she was that we were there. But let me tell you what, Mitch, for as happy as they were to see me there, Brian Stocking is the king in his kingdom when he's out there taking in a game at Port Byron in Riverdale. It was a sight to behold.
Oh, I can't even imagine it, really. I wish that I could, but I just can't. The king is in the building. The people know him. They love him. Celebrating 30 years of stock in the Quad City area across many different avenues, whether it's media or coaching uh, or teaching. So, um, yeah, it looked like a great day. I mean,
Yeah.
a picturesque day there in Riverdale, beautiful sunlight, and you saw a great game with great company. So, what more can you ask for?
It was perfect. And then, this all couldn't have timed out better for them. Riverdale gets the win. Like I said, Stocking's there. He's getting kudos from the players. They're thanking him for being there. And then they had a team barbecue, a team picnic after the game, and Stocking was invited. He got to go. So we'll pull up the picture.
What was he invited, or did he just show up?
He was definitely invited.
Okay.
Definitely invited. So Stocking in the middle of all the players there surrounding him. And I'm hearing reports from, like I said, from Lena Creer. She sent the photo and said that he was holding court, telling stories about the old days of working in TV and just chopping it up. Like, I love that. There is nothing better than that for me. So it's awesome. Congrats to Riverdale on a huge win. And thank you for a great atmosphere. You can feel the excitement building in Riverdale, and to be out there Saturday and kind of just soak it all in. I know it's only week one, but there's excitement around this program, and they validated it in week one. And for as bad as Friday was, man, Saturday was beautiful. That's my viewpoint, is just, coming together, seeing that energy from a small football community that's kind of building something here. It felt special. It felt really cool. So I was glad to be a part of it on Saturday.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm going to go a different route here. Obviously, I was not out on the road with you. I'm going to go with maybe a forewarning that not all is as it seems at the moment. I think when you look back at week one, you can chalk some things up to it being week one in general. But, just about every game had an hour to hour and a half to a 2 hour delay. And that really is going to affect you. And I understand that both teams go through it. I totally understand that. But it's not a normal night. No matter how you slice it, it's not a normal night. So I think that there were and not only that, but there were some teams that played opponents, to their credit, in much higher classifications that are some of the best teams in the state. So I think by my count, there are 5 teams 4 or 5 that I picked to win their respective conference or their division that are starting at 0-1. Okay. And that's Moline, that's United, that's Monmouth Roseville, that's Lena, that's Stockton, just off the top of my head. I'll probably go through a couple more as we go through this. But when you look at everything, I have no different prospectus on their season now than I did before the game started. So, and I think you saw that in Kyle's rankings this week. I say Kyle's rankings. We all contribute to it, except me, because I have not the last 2 weeks, and I just go off of you as a ghost vote. But you saw, especially in 1A, you saw Lena and Stockton still 1 and 2 and they're being 0-1. And this is why we don't have Facebook, because Kyle was on Facebook all day defending that. But, you should not get penalized for playing really good teams, and especially when you play really well against those good teams. And again, I am not concerned about those teams I just mentioned that are 0-1. I still think that they are going to do what I think they are going to do, which is win their conference or win their division. So no, I am not taking everything at face value after week one. That's my viewpoint.
Yep. I think when it comes to watching film, especially in week one, you're never probably as good as you think you look on that film, and you're definitely not as bad as you think you look on that film. After week one, you're probably somewhere in the middle, and teams are still a work in progress. And to your point, depending on your first week matchup, it dictates kind of how the season starts.
Now, the thing that I will say that was strengthened 10 times over this weekend, which we talked about, was the track rock.
Yep.
We thought that was going to be highly competitive, and now we know it's going to be highly competitive. And every single week, those conference games are going to be awesome. I'm walking away very impressed. I'm not trying to walk back me picking against these teams, but your Riverdales, your Erie Prophetstowns, your Newmans, and look, Rock Ridge won, maybe a little shaky, but also maybe Kewanee is going to have a better year on the other side. So I think the track rock got really, really interesting very quickly this week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I couldn't agree anymore. All right, Mitch, well, should we hit a quick pause here and jump into the results from week 1 and then look ahead at week 2?
Let's do it.
All right. This episode of View from the West podcast is brought to you by Simulation Sports. In addition to golf simulators and batting cages, Simulation Sports provides golf club repair, custom fittings for driver shafts, and even private lessons for golf, baseball, and softball. Whether you're looking for a fun group activity or want to fine-tune your skills and equipment, Simulation Sports has something for everyone. Visit their facility at 400 South Main Street in Monmouth, Illinois, or go to thesimulationsports.com to start playing today.
Shouldn't financial advice focus on you? I can help you plan for your financial future, from protection to saving to retirement. I'm Nate Neighbor, your Modern Woodman representative. Call me at 309-233-2656 or find me on the Modern Woodman website.
Get to know your local Modern Woodman representative to plan for your financial future and learn about valuable member benefits. Modern Woodman of America. Touching lives, securing futures. Securities offered through MWA Financial Services, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Modern Woodman of America.
The View from the West Player of the Week is brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. You can check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together. You can find me in my Byron office most days until I run off to football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful high school football season.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Let's get into the Western Big Six and talk about results from week number 1. The marquee matchup that took the headlines for us, Rochester coming on the road to Moline, getting the win 21-17. It was a battle. This was a tight game throughout. Even when Moline looked like they were out of it, they still fought back. They come up a little bit short in this one. But I mean, it for the most part lived up to the billing. So I do want to give a quick shout out to QC Sportsnet. Mitch, you've seen they have their Saturday morning sports section now. So it's kind of a recap of all the Western Big Six games that they cover. And it's kind of like the old newspaper back in the day. It's fun.
Yeah, no, it's incredibly helpful. We use them as a resource for those recaps. But also, this was the game I listened to. I listened to Grant Dahlstrom on this call and sat with them through the rain delay. So they do a great job. We're friends with them. Obviously, we support what they do. So yeah, big shout out to the boys at QC Sportsnet.
Yeah, so like I said, this game for the most part lived up to the billing. Early on, it was Moline grabbing a lead. It was 10-0 in the second quarter following a 25-yard field goal from Jonas Fagan, and then Mark Carey added a rushing touchdown as well. But Mitch, we've talked about the delays and how it affected teams.
Yeah.
It really felt like that momentum coming out of the break. Rochester grabbed it and they went on to score 21 straight points. And I think that obviously that was the difference in the game, but it just felt like they as a team were able to really seize that momentum right out of the break.
Well, if I remember correctly, they had scored before the break, and that was kind of what started it. And then the break happens and they had the ball coming out of that and they just kept going. So yeah. And again, goes back to what I was saying before. Both teams have to go through it. But it can screw you up. It's hard to have a delay that long. It's hard to keep your mind right. And just to stay focused. So, and you're dealing with a lot of unknowns, are we, aren't we sort of thing. So yeah, hour and 15 minutes probably felt like 4 hours to those guys.
Yeah. So, of course, in my Friday night that nothing worked the way I wanted it to, I get to
Yeah.
Moline right as the break is over. The lightning delay is over. And of course, I'm there long enough to see 2 Rochester touchdowns. That's all I get. So,
Right.
I mean, Derek Parrish from channel 1450, he was happy because I saw him on the sideline. He was probably loving it, but for me, it didn't really do me much favors. I didn't get much from Moline. Of course, Mitch, I leave, and Moline scores a huge passing touchdown to bring him to within 21-17. Was it to Ellis?
It was. Speaking of Evan Ellis, an outstanding game. We'll get into some numbers here in a minute, but yeah, Moline stayed in it. They had their chances. They had the ball on the final drive of the game. They got to a 4th and 1, and I do not recall if they tried to sneak it with Ponder or if they tried to carry with one of the backs. They had to bring out the sticks. A very dramatic call from Grant. It was short, and Rochester took over. They were able to secure that win, but it just a tremendous game. It sounded like from the post-game interview, there's a lot of mutual respect between Coach Leonard and Coach Morrissey. Sounded like the players really respected the Rochester players, really respected the Moline players. And so, despite the delays and despite the rain, and I think from what it sounded like, the crowd pre-delay was on fire. And then naturally it just kind of went the wayside.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we didn't get that all game. Not saying that it would have changed the result, but it lived up to the billing on the field for sure.
Yep, absolutely. We'll look through some of the numbers here, but I think it's important to point out that both Mark Carey and Elijah Warren were banged up in this one. They were in and out of the game, especially later in the game. Those two were not on the field. So certainly hoping for the best for both of them because they are key pieces to what this Moline offense is going to do. In the meantime, they had guys step up. Stanley Golden, Alex Ocean combined for 115 yards on 21 carries. So you also had Evan Ellis, who we mentioned. He had 5 receptions, over 100 yards and a touchdown. So that's a big impact play from him in week 1 coming out with Moline. And Kason Ponder, 8 for 19 through the air, 148 yards. So good effort from him. Defensively, this Moline team continues to get the job done. They forced 2 fumbles, recovered once by Aiden Lee, the other one by Ocean. So Ocean had a big kick return when I was there, looked really good. Also had, another play where he looked really dynamic on offense. So I'm excited to see what he can do. And man, I really hope that Carey and Warren stay on the field because this Moline team, I want to see it in full effect all year long.
Yeah. No, certainly we hope that they're back on the field this week, and it goes back to what I said in my viewpoint. I have no concerns on this Moline team. There are things that they need to clean up. Sure, every team is going to say that, but they've got too much talent. Rochester is going to be the favorite in 4A. They're the top team in 4A for a reason, and Moline went toe to toe for them. I don't care about classes in this situation because we know what Rochester can do, and Moline was ready for the moment, so they're going to be fine.
Yep. So great game there. Let's keep moving down the way. Speaking of great games, Mitch, how about Geneseo 16, Assumption 13 over there in Iowa? What a game. What a gutty performance from Geneseo to come away with the dramatic victory.
Well, let's see, Greg. This would be... No, it wouldn't. Never mind. I was going to say, I thought it was 2 of Geneseo's last 3 games going back to last year would have been on game-winning field goals, but I forgot the playoff win against Macomb. So
sure,
2 of their last 4, I suppose, is what I would say there.
Yes.
Anyway, Carson Peters, again, their dynamic kicker, kicks 3 field goals, including the game winner to cap off the come-from-behind victory on the road. Here's your stat, Greg. The Leafs roll up 474 rushing yards as a team, 300-yard rushers. So we talked about how are they going to replace Jackson McAvoy at quarterback. They have no problem whatsoever in that regard, at least as it relates to how this offense is going to click. Mark Nelms led the way, 155 yards and a touchdown, while quarterback Luca Turigliati, which according to Dan Pearson has the best hair in IHSA football, which is a fun nugget that I texted with him about throughout the night. He played quarterback. He was awesome. Jack Mickley went over the century mark as well. The defense was good. They really were in complete control of this game because the only points assumption scored were on 2 pick sixes. So it was only 124 total yards for assumption on the night. So Geneseo's defense really did play well. Just had a couple of long pick sixes. So when you're rushing for 474 rushing yards, maybe you don't have to pass. Maybe there's not many passing plays in the playbook. Maybe you don't need to. But Geneseo's offense looked really, really good.
Yeah. Luca, I can promise that Mitch will say your name faster every week from here on out. We're gonna get.
I have a voice note from DP that he sent me, doing the pronunciation.
There you go.
So I have that on my phone.
So there you go, Luca. Great job there. And Mitch, you talked about the offense and the rushing game. You said 474 rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
You know what comes to mind here. I think there's some boys up front in Geneseo that need to eat some Godfather's pizza in Silvis.
You got that right. Once again, in 2026, we're back with Andy at Godfathers of Silvis. So our week 1 Godfathers line of the week, Geneseo Maple Leafs. Congratulations, boys. Godfather's Pizza in Silvis. You have 2 large 1-topping pizzas coming your way, courtesy of our friends at Godfather's in Silvis. So we'll make sure that we get all parties in contact. And it's always fun seeing the pictures when that pizza gets there. And it's well earned from Geneseo this week.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So awesome. I can't wait to keep that, that tradition, that weekly tradition alive, the delivery of the Godfather's Pizza. So awesome. Congratulations, Geneseo, on a gutty win. And, we'll talk more about Geneseo and what they got coming up next in week 2. But Mitch, it feels like you mentioned, the kick against Rochelle last year in the playoffs, obviously this kick and the dramatic ending of this game, also kind of squeezed in there. In that Morris game, they went toe-to-toe with a really good football team and almost came back to win that game as well. They stayed in it till the very end of that game. So I think, you just look at, what this Geneseo team does in the fourth quarter of football games when the game is on the line. That, to me, doesn't seem like it's not a fluke, right? It's a trend. These players know they can do it. They believe they can do it, and they're coached to be in the right spot at the end of games. I think that goes a long way. Yeah,
absolutely. That's not a fluke when you've done it as much as Geneseo has just in their last handful of games. So that'll pay dividends down the road.
Yep. All right. Well, let's go to Sterling. Talk about up all night. The late night action in Sterling. It's like the old Mountain West games you used to watch on CBS Sports Network at 1 a.m, right?
Used to. Come on.
Right. I feel like it's shuffled around over the years, but sure, yes.
I can't wait for that. Yeah, I mean, Hawaii kicking off at midnight? Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know that Sterling loves kicking off at midnight, I guess they were playing until well after midnight. So Metamora gets the win 10-0 in week 1 in Sterling. Sterling's defense held tight throughout the game, but it's Metamora that gets a late touchdown to secure their 4th straight season opening win over Sterling. So just, a tough one here. We know both teams had to deal with the elements, but man, that's a tough way to start your season, being delayed that long, playing that late, and just fighting, but not being able to get enough to get the big win here.
Yeah, well, and according to Drake Landsman of Friday Night Drive, which shout out to him because he stayed, there was discussion at one time of moving the game to Saturday, and there would be a doubleheader of Sterling Metamora and then Newman Sherrard. And ultimately, they ended up just deciding to wait it out and kick off at 10 p.m. So, would love to see this game played under normal conditions, but that's not how it works here. And Metamora came away with yet another win over Sterling.
Yeah, Metamora's defense held Sterling to 131 total yards. So I think, that's Metamora kind of flexing their muscle. We know they're a good program. They get the job done here on the road. I mean, not easy for either team, but to be Metamora and be driving home that late at the end of the night,
right.
That made for a long Friday for them. They came here and got the win. All right, couple more games in the Western Big Six. Quincy, 31-28 over O'Fallon. Another game with a game-ending field goal. This time it's Quincy's Carson Kelly hitting a 24-yarder as time expires, so the Blue Devils get the win on the road. Our guy D.O.B. had video of the kick on his X account, so go check that out. That's awesome. Braxton Williams had a huge game. Mitch, tell us about his efforts.
Yeah, all over the place. 131 yards rushing with 2 scores, along with 101 yards receiving with another score. So a great game for Braxton. And in the debut game of Bryson Little at quarterback, 25 of 44 for 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, a great win for Quincy. We were curious to see what this kind of new look team looked like, and maybe the shades of Quincy of a couple years ago in this week 1 game, and a great, exciting finish too for them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So United Township, they hosted Wheaton Academy. They fall short 28-14. Kind of a weird, not a great start for UT overall. They played against a tough quality opponent. They just had too many kind of penalties that kind of were just holding them back throughout the game, especially early. We did bright spot. Javen McDowell came away with an interception off a deflection, and that capped a 3-play drive. Then he capped off that 3-play drive with his first varsity rushing touchdown. So doing a little bit of everything. The interception, then he scores the rushing touchdown himself. So that would tie the game 7-7 early. You had Jonathan Drake going 15 of 33 for 186 and a touchdown. You also had Will Recius with a game-high 7 catches for 89 yards and a score. So there's some bright spots here, but overall, the Panthers were held to just 59 yards rushing, so good effort by Wheaton Academy to really slow down this team. I think you're going to see a lot more out of the Panthers in that department. Leo Sim finished with 92 total yards on offense, so I think he'll get going. This was just a tough matchup against a good Wheaton Academy squad.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we'll see a little bit more of what we can expect from UT moving forward here in week 2 against a Chicago Noble team that they've been able to put up some decent numbers against in years past. So I think they'll get back. They'll go to the drawing board this week, tune up a little bit. And again, a 2-score game against a really good Wheaton Academy team. There's certainly some positives that they'll take away from that. And then I think we'll see that from UT in the next 2 weeks when they play Chicago Noble and then with Galesburg in week 3.
Yep, I believe the same thing. You know, it was a tough matchup, like we said, for UT. How about Mitch, this Oros kid? We talked about him in the preview for this game. He's committed to Western Illinois. He really dominated. We knew he had that potential. In this game, he really took over. 151 total yards. He had 41 rushing yards, 110 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. So, and he's committed to Western Illinois for good reason. He played some really good football on Friday night. A couple more games from the score from around the Western Big Six. Canelan gets the win 49-7 over Rock Island, and Dunlap gets the win 48-21 over Galesburg. So, Mitch, let's pull up the scores here looking at, or sorry, not the scores, but the games coming up in week 2 for the Western Big Six. Read us through the slate here.
So you've got Moline going to Sycamore. And Greg, did you notice that I took the feedback at heart, and now I have hopefully put these in the correct order for the readers. So Moline goes to 1-0 Sycamore. You've got Chicago Noble going to United Township. Chicago Noble is 1-0. You've got the other Chicago Noble team, Hansberry, coming to Sterling. And then Quincy will host Chicago Little Village.
All right, there's half of the slate. Let's go to the rest of the Big Six here.
Yep. The 2026 edition of one of the games you just mentioned, Rochelle coming to Geneseo this year. Dunlop, fresh off their win against Galesburg, will come to Rock Island, and Galesburg will play Limestone, 0-1 Limestone here in week 2.
And I believe Galesburg got that win last year. That was one of Galesburg's wins a year ago. So see if they can turn things around. Tough matchup for Rock Island going up against the Dunlap squad, which we think is pretty good. See if they can show any signs, against a good squad there at home. That Geneseo-Rochelle game is going to be fascinating. Rochelle looks really good again.
Yeah, what did they do in week 1? They are 1-0. Rochelle beat normal 55-14. Whew.
Yeah, so that's a big win for them. Yeah. Let's flip back to the other screen here. Moline and Sycamore, interesting matchup there for sure. Another challenge for Moline, this time going on the road.
Yes. Sycamore 1-0 after beating DeKalb 20-14 in week 1.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean,
always hard to play those Interstate 8 teams. So we'll see how Moline responds from a tough week 1. But they're too talented not to be in this game and really put up a fight against Sycamore.
Yep. All right. Well, Mitch, is it time to talk some track? A little traction here.
I mean, let's go.
All right. Coverage of the Three Rivers Athletic Conference brought to you by Simulation Sports in Monmouth, Illinois. Visit thesimulationsports.com to book your golf or batting cage time today. Let's start in Erie Prophetstown. It's the Panthers getting the 24-22 win in a long delayed game and then a very back and forth game that comes down to the wire. Mitch, give us the rundown on how this game played out.
Well, it was a 2-hour lightning delay just minutes before kickoff, so that really put a hampering on things. If I remember correctly, the opening kickoff was returned back for a touchdown. This game was tight all the way through, but let's flash forward to the fourth quarter, okay? EP is staring at a fourth down. Evan Steinley throws a pass into the end zone. It's hauled in by Caleb Brown for the score. They missed the PAT, but they still held a full one possession lead, 24-16 at that time, with just about 5 minutes left. Shortly after that, Monmouth Roseville responds. 97-yard touchdown pass from Kane Johnson to Lars Berggren. 97 yards, Greg.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's 24-22 still in favor of Monmouth Roseville. They need to get that 2-point conversion. And maybe the most of unfortunate week 1 mistakes. Critical back-to-back pre-snap penalties pushed the Titans back, led to an incompletion on that 2-point try. EP preserves the lead for the moment. Panthers picked up pivotal fourth down conversions on their final drive. For reasons unknown, they tried to throw a pass that Monmouth Roseville intercepted by Bergen intercepted it, giving Monmouth Roseville one final chance, but I don't believe they had timeouts, and they were tackled in bounds, and time just went out. So all in all, I believe Tristan Hovey scored in this game. Evan Steinley was really, really good. You mentioned it better than I did on your perspectives of Erie Prophetstown and what you thought that they were going to be able to do this year. I think we can upgrade them from a sneaky good team to now they're in contention. Now they are in contention for that division based on this game alone. And it kind of goes against me what I said about overreacting in week 1, but if you come into week 1 and you can physically outgain or outplay or whatever it is, a team like Monmouth Roseville, that says something to me. So my stock the stock in Erie Prophetstown is going up, I think. For Monmouth Roseville, though, I don't think any less of what they're going to do. They are still my favorites in the Mississippi. Lars Bergen, 120 yards on the ground, 126 through the air with a pair of touchdowns. So great game there. Landon Montroy, 89 yards with a score on 19 carries. So I think both of these teams are going to be great this year. We could be looking back in week 9 thinking that this was a game of the year type of thing. So great week 1 game. Congratulations to Erie Prophetstown on a statement win, not only for the program, but for the Track Rock.
It's funny you say looking back on week 1. I heard before the game when I was talking to some people out in Erie Prophetstown, shout out to my old JV baseball coach, Coach Brian Howell. He's now working for Erie, and then former head coach Milam was out there. I always like talking to him when I get out there as well. But they had mentioned this originally was a week 9 game, but when the IHSA shifted their schedule, the track just took every game that was week 9 and moved it back to the front of the line. So crazy to think what could have been these two teams, down in week 9. But either way, like you said, I think you could look back at week 1 and think how critical it was. So great win there for Erie Prophetstown. They are, like you mentioned, right there in the mix in the Track Rock. And I think this division got even harder to predict when you look at the success that Riverdale had in week 1. They get the win 28-14 over Princeton. This was a game like we talked about that I was at on Saturday afternoon. Riverdale essentially controlled this entire game. So they led 7-0 after Lucas Dunbar had a 60-some yard touchdown run from the first play from scrimmage. I don't know exactly how long it was, but it was an impact play right from the jump. They led 7-0 into Saturday when play resumed. They scored again to go up 14-0 at the half. They end up going up 21-0 in the third. Princeton could never really develop any great momentum on offense, especially when the game was kind of still in the balance. Credit to Riverdale. They were swarming on defense. The yards after contact were really not happening. When they put a body on you, they were making the tackles. And on the flip side, it really felt like Riverdale was running downhill. They were, bouncing off tackles, getting an extra yard, 2-3 yards downfield. So they were really playing a good, hard brand of football. Lucas Dunbar, like I said, 2 rushing touchdowns. Abram Creer had a keeper. It was a keeper up the middle, and the pile kind of kept inching forward. Then all of a sudden, he shot through the pile and ran for 10 yards for a score. So that was a fun play. And then Jackson Tegler had a pick 6 in the second half as well. If you want to see all these highlights, Mitch, we have 11 minutes worth of Riverdale football out there on our YouTube channel right now. I love that we can post all this and not really be limited on time. It used to always drive me crazy when I would go to a game and I'd have to condense it to maybe at the most you get 2 minutes, right? Or something like that. It's like, no, we're going to blow it up. We're going to go as long as we need to go. Yeah. So we posted some shorter versions on our social media channels, but if you want the full thing, all you Riverdale Rams fans, go out to our YouTube channel. You can find the full game.
I was thinking about this over the weekend, Greg, and I am hesitant to say that this is the game that Riverdale turned a corner, because I think it's better to look back and wonder where that might have happened. And it might have been that playoff loss to Seneca, right? You get that euphoria of coming back from a couple years ago, of not even having a program, having a winless season, and just building up year after year. You get to the point where you qualify for the playoffs, you play a tough Seneca team, and you play them really well. I think we can look back, and certainly if it's not at the end of this year or into next year, we'll look back at that game in particular, not this one, because I think they've already turned to the corner. Coming in a week 1 game with the weather delay, pushing the game to a day later, and they still come out and dominate the way that they did. I think Riverdale is here now, and I don't think there's any question about that, and they're going to make some noise in this conference.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you could feel that confidence building throughout that game, and just the momentum that they had, and they, like you said, they carried it into Saturday. It was really fun to watch. I think they're really well coached, and I think that they have the guys there across the board. And I think what I mean by that is, like, they got some size up front. They got a quarterback who's confident. They got a running back in Lucas Dunbar and a couple other guys that can run the ball. They got Tegler, who can do it on both sides of the ball in the secondary, or, line or defensively, coming up with the pick 6, but also made a great play on offense as well as a wide receiver. He's a mismatch for a lot of teams. So I think, you know what I mean? I think they just have a little bit sprinkled all over the field, and they all play their role really well.
And just to go to the Princeton side of things, that's tough for them too, right? To have a long delay, go home, come back, and play. That's tough. Not an excuse, and I'm sure Coach Pearson will be the first one to say that. Not an excuse. Be looking forward to see how Princeton bounces back here in week 2 against Mercer County, a team that's riding some momentum as well. But it's not lost on me what Princeton had to go through too in a situation like they had to.
Yeah,
but not taking away from what Riverdale did whatsoever.
Nope, absolutely. All right, well, let's keep moving down the way here. Mitch, a wild game, maybe one of the craziest games that we saw in week 1. It was a Mercer County win, 46-44 in overtime. We had Ty Taylor on the podcast on the Instant Reacts, and I'm going to say, no matter how we describe the game, go listen to him talk about the game.
That's exactly right. We're going to give you a couple of stats here from players, but all you need to know about the game, just go to the Instant Reacts, go towards the back half of it, and just listen to Ty Taylor's voice.
Yeah.
As he finds the undercover cops in the streets of Aledo and pulls into the gas stations where there's questionable people in the parking lot. But no, a great win for Mirko here.
I was jealous. He was getting a Polar Pop at the end of the show. Like, man, I would have loved a Polar Pop at that point.
Well, I mean, did you see what he got? He got a Polar Pop and a Caesar wrap and a Hostess at whatever time it was. I mean, if that doesn't scream high school football media coverage, I don't know what else would.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, like we said, overtime 46-44 winners for the Golden Eagles. Mitch, this was a one-possession game the entire game. That's crazy for that many points, and it was always a one-possession game. Eli Boswell, 163 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 22 receiving yards and a touchdown as well. Quarterback Cannon Link, 88 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Shout out Ty Taylor for helping us out with the information here. But, It was just one of those games where it felt like over the last few years, Mercer County struggled. Certainly last year, learning a new system in head coach Fred Lucas. This was an important win to just kind of learn how to win, right? To get that confidence back and know that you can go into a tight game and make the plays and win the game. I think it's a huge confidence booster for this program right off the bat in week 1.
Oh, it's different too, right? Because let's say Mirko played a Chicago Public League team, and I don't want to take away from that and get into that conversation, but it would be a lesser opponent than Hall.
Yep.
So that's one thing to win a game like that. It's another thing to play a team like Hall and fight with them for 4 quarters, 5 quarters, I suppose, and come out with the win. So, yeah, it's a great win for Coach Lucas in this program. So we're going to learn more about Mirko. They've got Princeton. We're going to learn more about both of those teams in week 2. But for now, fantastic win in week 1.
Yes, a game that was so good, Mitch. It caught the attention of Nate Neighbor from Modern Woodmen of America. Our View from the West Game of the Week in week number 1 is sponsored by Nate Neighbor of Modern Woodmen of America. From protection to saving to retirement, contact Nate Neighbor today to put together your financial game plan. His phone number, 309-233-2656. Modern Woodmen, touching lives, securing futures. So, speaking of second-year head coaches getting the win, Mendota gets the win at Orion, 23-14. Nice win for Jim Eustace there in the Trojans. Again, just to build a little positive momentum and kind of, get yourself off on the right foot. This is a program that's struggled the last few years. So getting that confidence in a win, I think, is important here. Rockridge gets the win 31-27 over Kewanee. I think Rockridge comes away with the win, but I think Kewanee comes away with a lot of respect from Rockridge and from people around the Three Rivers. This game and the result kind of caught some people's attention.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it's any question that we have a lot of friends in Rock Ridge, and they were texting us their kudos to Kewanee and that they had every right to win this game just as much as Rock Ridge did. So we talked about this in the preview show about Kewanee, how they've been a little bit of a roller coaster, right? But after last year of being 0-9, we didn't think they were going to be 0-9 this year. I don't believe that at all, especially after this performance. So yeah, looking forward to seeing just how much better Kewanee has gotten, because if week 1 is any indication, they're going to be a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
For Rock Ridge, they come away with the win. I can assure you they have things that they want to clean up, but we still saw the flashes. We still saw Kohlenschweigen make a player of the year type of play on I think it was the first drive. So, Rock Ridge is going to be fine. I think they're going to be contested week in, week out in the Rock, but a fun game to watch here in week 1. They sneak away with the win, but maybe the story that we'll be talking about more is how much better Kewanee is this year than last.
Yeah, really cool. So like I said, at the Riverdale game, when I was leaving at the end of the game, about 4 or 5 Kewanee players stopped me down by the sideline. They had come down to watch that game. I didn't get their names. I felt stupid. I walked away and thought, man, all these student athletes were so gracious to thank us for all we talked about in the Instant Reacts podcast and kind of giving them some credit for playing a really good football game. And I never got their names. I think Ace LaFollette was one of them who was there. And we had heard from people who were at the game that he was a beast, played a really good football game. And I think on the opposite side of things, not to take away from anybody else on the field, but what Cullen Schweigen does, is remarkable to lead this team.
Yeah.
Best player on the field, and he really did the job and kind of pushed them to the finish line here.
Yeah, just a little bit of numbers here. 181 passing yards for Cullen to go along with 76 rushing yards. Thomas Sowards had 84 yards rushing in this one. Trying to find the receiving stats real quickly. Wheatley had 73, and Zimmerman had 89. So the names are going to look familiar and new for Rock Ridge. So yeah, they're going to be fine. Again, I don't want to take away from their win here, but it's just a good week 1 game.
Yeah, and it definitely gets me excited to see Kewanee moving forward, and then Monmouth Roseville has that matchup with Rock Ridge next week. So I'm excited to see Rock Ridge moving forward into a marquee matchup, right away here in week 2.
We might be seeing some shim lights from his alma mater there in Kewanee this year at this rate.
Yeah, there we go. Well, the players asked me if I was going to make it to a Kewanee game, and man, I really want to. I gotta figure out.
We're gonna send Shim there.
What's that?
We'll send Shim there. We'll send Shim there.
There you go.
Newman and Kewanee at Kewanee this week.
Yeah. I love the Kewanee Princeton game. You know it.
Of course.
If that one's possible, I'd love to get to that one. So
that one is in Kewanee this year.
Okay. There you go. Good to know. Thank you. One more game. Newman gets the win 47-0 over Sherrard. 5 different players scored touchdowns for Newman, and the Tigers were held to only 2 first downs in the first half of the game. So we kind of figured this would be a little bit of a one-sided, game. Newman is really good, and they looked the part again.
Yeah, I was listening to Ty on this call on Saturday night, and Shim was there shooting video, and yes, there is a talent discrepancy here between the two schools, but just watching Matthew Blackert run the football and Rylan Alvarado and Aiden Gutierrez and Renan Rosengren, like Newman is going to be good. Newman's my favorite to win when there's their side of the track. I think for good reason. And look, Sherrard is dealing with numbers. They're dealing with playing freshmen and sophomores they're also playing in JV games. So we did learn tonight that there is a meeting going on within the program. We don't know the nature of that. We don't know if that's going to be discussing. I'm not going to speculate on it. I just don't want to. But the thing is they played hard. They really did. And you can see it in these videos. You can hear it in Ty's voice when he describes it. It's just not, I don't think it's going to be sustainable. And I don't think for the future of the program, there might be something different they have to do instead of having results like this every week. I don't know that is the best thing for them. But again, I'm not the decider on that at all. I don't know what the meeting is going to be about. So we'll just won't speculate on that. Newman looked good, regardless of the circumstances. Newman looked really, really good. Very excited for Coach LeMay and his boys this year.
Yeah, so Matthew Blackard had 57 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. Rylan Alvarado, 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. Aiden Gutierrez grabbed an interception for Newman. Renner Rosengren ran in 1 touchdown and had a connection with John Rosie on a 60-yard big pass for another score. So
I'm pretty sure Blackard had a kick return for a touchdown and a punt return for a touchdown, but the punt return was called back. So just a dynamic player.
Yep, exactly. And it's what we expect to see out of this Newman squad. So here we go. Let's take a look at week number 2 for the Three Rivers. Mitch, give us the rundown.
Well, you got the big one right there. Rock Ridge going to Monmouth Roseville, another game where we're going to learn a lot more about both teams. That's been a de facto track championship game in the past. So see what happens here in week 2. You've got Orion and Sherrard. Orion going to Sherrard. Erie Prophetstown and Mendota going to, I should be reading this way better than I am. Erie Prophetstown going to Mendota, matchup of two 1-0 programs there. Newman going to Kewanee, very interesting game there. Merco and Princeton, same thing. And then Riverdale looks to go to 2-0, going to Hall, who is looking for their first win and a bounce back after a tough loss.
So I think the big game in the preseason and even now heading into week 2 would be Rock Ridge and Monmouth Roseville. I think, but I want to ask you what maybe. Oh, okay, you go ahead then. What's the game for you?
No, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah. My point was going to be that going into the season.
How does go ahead.
My point was going to be, I guess, going into the season, that was the game that we had really hyped up. But now I think based on 1 week of results, there's some other games that all of a sudden really catch your eye.
Yeah, and I think it's to pick one. Just give me Newman and Kewanee.
Yep.
How does Kewanee look against a Newman team that we know is tough? How does Newman, they I'm just going to call it like it was, kind of walked through their win on Saturday. So are they able to recover from that and get mentally right to be ready for a tough Kewanee game? But I think that Princeton-Merco game is also interesting. How does Princeton bounce back? How does Merco look in a week 2 game? So no, this is what we're going to be doing every single week in the track on either side of the conference. Every single week we're going to be talking about games like this where there's going to be an intriguing game.
Yeah,
and
you're not kidding.
If my week 1 picks with WRMJ are any indication, I'm in for a very long year as I'm 2-4 to kick off the year, which is just miserable.
How about Erie Prophetstown going on the road to Mendota? Mendota getting some positive momentum in week 2, heading into week 2. They're hosting now Erie Prophetstown, who we're really impressed with.
And that's a good point. Can Erie Prophetstown also get mentally back to square one? Can they get off of the high of beating a team like Monmouth Roseville in week 1 and be ready for a Mendota team that is going to give them everything they got?
Yeah. I want to continue to watch this Erie Prophetstown front line. I think on both sides of the ball. I think that goes a long way for them and the success they're going to have. Yeah, I think you've kind of summed it up. There's just every week there's a lot of intriguing matchups here. I can't wait to talk about them on Friday night.
There's some teams here, Greg, that probably have some godfathers coming their way one of these weeks.
That is a great point.
I can sense it.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, let's hit a break and we'll jump back into the Big Northern Conference. We'll be right back.
Take your quarterback play to the next level. Train with Dean Passing Academy. Learn directly from Braden Dean, former Rock Ridge standout and the Midwest Conference Offensive Skills MVP at Monmouth College. At Dean Passing Academy, quarterbacks receive elite instruction focused on mechanics, decision-making, and game-like situations pulled directly from film. Serving the Quad Cities metro area and beyond, call 309-798-1094 to learn more and schedule your training today.
View from the West podcast is brought to you by First Wealth Financial Group. Do you have a comprehensive financial plan or simply an investment portfolio? Are your investments part of a coordinated strategy aligned with your goals or a collection of products accumulated over time? Partner with a team built around your goals. Preserve what you've built. Grow with intention. Contact First Wealth Financial Group at 563-242-1885 or visit their website at firstwealthfinancialgroup.com.
This is Dan Pearson. Our Fellowship of Christian Athletes team is pleased to partner with View from the West with Greg and Mitch. Bringing sports and the gospel together is our game plan as we serve 23 counties in our Northwest Illinois multi-area. Yes, all with schools covered by View from the West. Reach out to me if you want to get plugged in with FCA.
FCA, every coach, every athlete.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen, and those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Hey, this is Brett Bielma, the head coach of the Fighting Illini from Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to the View from the West podcast.
Welcome back. Let's talk some Big Northern Conference football. Of course, our coverage of the Big Northern brought to you by Byron Wealth Management. Stop by, talk to Sean today about the financials or the football happening out there in the Big Northern. Let's go through some scores here. And Mitch, before we get into all the scores, we got to give a shout out and a thank you. Tanner Wilhelm, our conference insider for the Big Northern. He gets the info, he gets the numbers and the stories every week for us. It's a huge text, and I love it.
He texts us. He's got an email. It's got to be easier to type out than it is to text it. So
yeah, that's probably fair. It's probably fair.
We got to get our guy on a computer here.
Either way, I'll take the info anyway we get it.
Yeah, super, super appreciative of that.
Yeah. So Dupec gets the win 32-12 over Oregon. Mitch, I don't know if you caught it in the Instant React show, but of course, Kyle's there to weigh in on me that I did not put the Dupec Rivermen in my top 10 in 3A, and they came away with this win.
And again, Greg, you are carrying my vote as well, because I have just been slacking on this. So, yeah, I'm a little mad at you too. How about that?
Okay, fair. Fine. I guess to defend myself a little bit, I made the mistake of just not knowing not knowing enough about this Dupec squad and what they had
it's fair.
to replace what was gone from last year. So I think I didn't know, and I thought that Oregon returned quite a bit. I'm excited about Oregon, still am, but this is a nice win for Dupec to start their year. I watched a little bit of the highlights. Shout out to Dan Hammond. He posts the highlights every week for the Dupec Rivermen, does a great job with that, and really watching the game play out. A few years ago, when the Hoffman brothers were slinging the ball all over the yard, they were a really pass-heavy offense, correct? They ran a little bit then. But in last year's version of the...
Yeah, both quarterbacks were a little bit dual threat, but certainly they passed a ton.
Yes. And now in last year's version of the offense with Russell and Dermot Dolan, they were very run-heavy. That they were going to run right at you, and they did a really good job of that. This new iteration of the offense really seems like a balance of both. They can really, I was watching the highlights, they were throwing the ball deep, they were throwing the ball around, they were running the ball effectively. So obviously, 32 points, 32-12 victory. This is a good start for a Dupec team that I'm believing in them now. I'm buying a little bit of what they got here.
Well, and let me tell you this. They don't meet Byron until week 7. They don't meet Dixon until week 9.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they've got a very good chance of getting to being 6-1. Or let's see. Yeah, if they're 5-1 going into that Byron game, if they're 6-0 going into that Byron game. So yes, the schedule lays out pretty good for Dupec in their first year in the Big Northern. So yeah, expect big things here because I think they're going to do well.
Yep. All right, let's keep moving along. Rock Falls gets the win 14-0 over Rockford Lutheran. So Rockets get their first win of the season. They led this one 14-0 in the first quarter before a rain delay took over. After about an hour and a half, Rockford Lutheran decided to forfeit the rest of the game. So I'm assuming that was weather related, that they either didn't want to wait that late.
What's that drive? So it could have been just, and it's a tough call.
Yeah.
What's the weather going to do? Or are you going to delay it? Or are you not going to delay it? So yeah, an unfortunate ending, but in the end, Rock Falls gets a win. They were 0-9 last year, so congratulations to the Rockets and Coach Chavera on getting a win.
Yeah, so Denier Wells had a 39-yard touchdown run in the first quarter. So shout out to him and getting Rock Falls the win there. Couple other games here in the Big Northern. Byron, they still look good. Back to business for these new look Tigers. 55-7 over North Boone. You know, they dominated in week 1, Mitch. It's, I guess, kind of what we expected, but, you know, here they are again.
Yeah, it's a thing that we expect from Byron over the last couple of years, but this was where you weren't going to have Constantine, you weren't going to have Talbert back. So what were they going to do? And sure enough, they're going to do just fine. J.J. Edmondson and Landon Bonvlat each had a pair of touchdowns for the Tigers. So, yes, business as usual for Byron.
Yep. Keeping pace with Byron up at the top, Dixon gets the win 27-6 over Genoa Kingston. Genoa Kingston held early in this one with Dixon before the Dukes would pull away. Jagger Kemp had 3 touchdowns. Owen McNitt and Xavion Jones had big nights, especially Jones, who had 66-yard touchdown run on his very first touch. So great effort from him. And for the Cogs, it was Nash Soonerlog who had a 69-yard touchdown run. So this is a good win for Dixon because I think the Genoa Kingston's going to find success this year. And to kind of have the convincing win where you kind of pull away from the Cogs, I think is a good start for the Dukes.
Yeah, they've got Rockford Lutheran this week, and you know we'll see what happens there. But then the eyes start pointing to week 3, Greg, where we get Dixon and Byron once again early this year.
Yep. One more score here to go over. Yep.
We're going to do this live. No edit here. As we're talking about this, Dupek sends their stats. So let's take a quick glance
there we
at
go.
the Dupek game really quick. If I can get it to pop up. We might have to move forward on the games real quick before I can get this to pop up. But let's see. 339 yards from scrimmage for Dupek. You had Tyler Tunick, 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. Connor Berg, 62 yards. Blake Scroggins, 97 yards throwing. And for the sake of the show, that's good enough. So thank you to Coach Kyle on sending those in. And just, again, great win for Dupek in week 1.
I mean, that's like that's the podcast version of like a dramatic last second win.
Well, it would be like if he was listening to this live and was like, "Oh crap, I got to send these in," but this is not live, just a coincidence. So
that is funny. Yeah. Perfect timing though, Coach. You nailed it.
Absolutely.
So
yep.
All right, Winnebago gets the win 37-19 over Stillman Valley. It's Winnebago with 15 unanswered points to pull away late over Stillman Valley. Keaton Langhoff had 9 of 12 passing for 90 yards and a touchdown as he leads Winnebago to the win. Back-to-back wins now for Winnebago in this series. We thought it was kind of an upset at the end of last year when Winnebago got the win. This year they come back and prove it again and kind of validate themselves, getting the win there for Winnebago. That's a nice start.
Yeah, and they've got North Boone in week 2. I think that'll be a winnable game if they play the same way, and that sets up an intriguing game in week 3 with Dupek.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's look at the week 2 slate. So Winnebago goes on the road to North Boone, as you mentioned. Stillman Valley is on the road at Dupek. It will be Oregon hosting Genoa Kingston. We have Byron hosting Rock Falls and Dixon hosting Rockford Lutheran. Mitch, I'll start. That Oregon-Genoa Kingston game, I think, goes a long way to see who's going to be staying up, fighting near the top of the standings. Oregon really needs it, I think, because they're, sitting at that or I guess both teams are sitting at 0-1. So it's a pretty important game for both of them.
Yeah, and this, if we were still in the previous postseason format, this would really be a game of consequence. I don't think it's that much anymore.
That's true.
At least as it relates to the postseason. But to your point, as it relates to the conference standings, yes, this will be a game of 2 teams that normally finish in that 4th, 5th spot. So who can come out on top here this week should be interesting. My eyes, I guess, go to Winnebago to see if they can win on the road and get to 2-0. Also, Dupek and Stillman Valley. Can Dupek keep it rolling, or does Stillman Valley catch some momentum after a week 1 loss.
Yeah, I think a really big opportunity there for both those teams, and to get that win and keep their move to 2-0, and yeah, big opportunity there for Genoa Kingston or Oregon to kind of bounce back. So, all right, there we go. Let's talk some LLC. It's all business in the LLC. You have Anawan Wethersfield getting the 36-0 win over Elmwood Brimfield. 254 rushing yards for the Titans in the blowout win. They were leading 12-0 at half, but then really, kind of blew this one open in the second. Great effort to start here from an Anawan Wethersfield team that, there's some new names in the mix. We're going to learn some new names, but that's kind of what this program does.
Yeah, I think we'll see some different regulars this year than names that we've come to know year after year for Anawan Wethersfield. But the results are still there. 36-0 over an Elmwood Brimfield team. Great win for the Titans in week 1.
Yep. Another really great game between, I think, two teams that are going to be much improved from a year ago. Bureau Valley gets the win 36-27 over Monmouth United. I mean, a great offensive effort here for United, even in a losing effort. Kellen Boone was 12 for 18, 390 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Ooh.
He had 8 carries for 64 yards and a touchdown. Wyatt Bockelman, 6 catches, 258 yards, Mitch, and 2 touchdowns. So
crazy.
Incredible. Some really big-time numbers here for United. And on the Bureau Valley side of the ball, they put up some big-time numbers too, obviously coming away with the win here.
I mean, Greg, there's 4 finalists, I think, for Player of the Week here in this game alone. So for Bureau Valley, Blake Foster finished with 3 touchdowns, rushing for 56 yards and 2 scores on the ground, but it also had a 12-yard touchdown reception. Dane Stewart had a game-high 101 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Storm in their win.
Yeah. Overall, I think these are 2 teams we're intrigued by to watch. Really great start. Both teams played well. Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to lose. Great way for this Bureau Valley team to get a win. Pat Elder was on Matt Randazzo's show this week, and hearing him talk about this group is motivated to get to a winning record because they haven't had one when they've been in high school. So they're motivated to kind of change that narrative out there in Bureau Valley, and this is a step, in the right direction for sure. They showed some good signs there in week 1. You had Macomb getting the win 42-14 over Knoxville. Drake May, 125 yards, 3 touchdowns. You had Caden Nupp had 86 passing yards, and the Bomber defense recovered 3 fumbles. So really solid effort all the way around for Macomb. You had Illini West getting the win 22-17. Coley Palmer paced the Princes with 10 of 16 passing, 86 yards and a touchdown with 95 yards rushing as well. So great effort there in the losing effort there for the Princes, but overall, Illini West, really solid win there. All right, let's go to Roval Williamsfield. They get the win 54-6 over LVC. Mitch, some big-time numbers here for the Cougars in week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Cougars rushed for 297 yards as a team, part of a 487 yards of total offense effort. The connection on this night, Greg, was Sechrist to Tamburo. Sechrist had 190 yards on 10 completions with 3 touchdowns. Parker hauled in 106 yards and 2 touchdowns there. But really, Greg, with that amount of offense, you know what? Let's shout out the big fellas up front. Max Miller, Riley Triplett, Cooper Johnston, Edwin Foster, and Landon Anderson, the big fellas up front, making those 487 yards possible. And defensively, Garrett Goff had a pick 6. So great win for Roval Williamsfield here in week 1.
Yep, great start for the Cougars. You also have Stark County. The Rebels get the win 27-14 over South Fulton. Rebels 425 total yards as they cruise to victory. Keaton Steelman.
They want pizza, Greg. They all want pizza.
Absolutely they do. Keaton Steelman, 16 for 23 for 197 yards and a score. Jackson Knobloch added 134 yards and a touchdown. Stark County led 27-0 in this one before South Fulton added touchdowns in the third and the fourth quarters. So the Rebels came out, controlled this one, get the win. A-Town gets the big win, 41-12 over West Hancock. A-Town rushes for 478 yards on the ground with a pair of running backs going over 200 yards. Mitch, give us the details here.
Yeah, great performance from an A-Town team, Greg, that we are excited about. Riker Darst, 242 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Carson Stenger, 214 yards with a pair of scores. So outstanding performances there from those two guys and this entire A-Town team. For West Hancock, Hunter Froman had 78 yards receiving and a score, while Benton Boley hauled in 119 yards and a score as well.
So, Mitch, you said Riker Darst, 242 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think the pick is in. The selection is in. How about Riker Darst being our Week 1 Breedlove's Player of the Week for his efforts in the big win for the Tornadoes there? Congratulations to Riker. For the first time ever, the Breedlove's Player of the Week, merch is headed out to A-Town, headed out to Abingdon Avon. Of course, Riker Darst going to get the mini helmet customized with his stats on there, his name from Week 1 and his accomplishments, and several other cool things thrown in there as well. We got to give a shout out. Congratulations to Riker Darst, and thank you to Breedloves for sponsoring our Player of the Week.
Yeah, first and foremost, obviously, Breedlove's going to have a terrific package of goodies sent to Riker Darst on this one. Congratulations to Riker. This is the first time, Greg, like you said, that we're headed to A-Town for this award, but it's well-deserved. Again, 242 yards and 3 touchdowns in the big win. So a lot of great performances here in Week 1 across the board, despite the conditions and everything. With the amount of performances that we had that were worthy of this award, really, really looking forward to the season. But Week 1, Riker Darst, A-Town, Player of the Week.
Yeah, well, we're going to keep moving here. Farmington gets the win, 54-27 over Havana. They had a player that maybe could toss his name in the mix as well. And And I don't he was a nominee this week for sure. And I don't think this guy's going anywhere. I think he's going to be a nominee for plenty of weeks moving forward. He's going to win this eventually. I'm talking about sophomore quarterback for the Farmington Farmers, Carson Noy. He leads the way. Yeah. He had 242 yards and 4 touchdowns. 3 of them went to Trevor Fry. So, Mitch, it's what we see year over year with the Farmers. They find new talent to put into that offense, and they just explode, right? This game, it was back and forth for a little while, and then, man, the explosion of offense in that second quarter, remarkable.
42 combined points in that second quarter. I don't think either coach will tell you that they're happy about that, but it's part of the fun here in Week 1. But after that, game settled in a little bit. Farmington rolled in the second half. But yeah, as you mentioned, Carson Noy, excited about his sophomore season here, did really well. Trevor Fry, a name that we called a lot last year. One that we didn't, Hayden Sari, I apologize, Hayden. I'll talk to Coach Vallis to get that right. Congratulations hauling in your first varsity touchdown this week. I believe Hayden is also a sophomore with Carson Noy, so we could be seeing those two for the next couple of years. For Havana, again, they played really, really well in this game, certainly in that first half. Jack Turner, I think we're going to be calling his name a lot this year, Greg. Quarterback, 173 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns, all in that first half. So terrific game here, and in the end, it's Farmington still on top.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Havana can do moving forward because they did. They hung around and they looked impressive in the beginning of this game and just kind of ran out of gas and just didn't quite have enough to keep up with Farmington and their high-powered offense. But there's intrigue there. There's something to watch for sure. So, all right, let's share the scoreboard looking ahead at Week 2 in the LLC. You got Illini West going on the road to United, Stark County going on the road to Farmington, West Hancock will go to South Fulton, Rova Williamsfield hosting Elmwood Brimfield, and Macomb is hosting LVC. So those are a few of the matchups. We'll start on this screen, then we'll advance the screen, Mitch, to the rest of the conference divisions. But what are you seeing here?
Well, I think the top one is going to be Farmington and Stark County, just two teams that are 1-0. And see what each team looks like. I mean, Stark County played really, really well against South Fulton, and Farmington. I don't know that they struggled, but maybe not a performance that they would have liked to have in that first half in that game. So we'll see which Farmington half, whether that first half team or the second half team comes out against a good Stark County team. I'm intrigued on Illini Western United, though.
Yep.
We were high on United coming into the season, so can they bounce back? But can Coach Lafferty and this Illini West team, how do they look? Are they going to jump out to a 2-0 start? That might be a surprise to some. So those are the two that I looked at. Elmwood Brimfield and Rova Williamsfield, I think you can make a case for if Rova Williamsfield can keep that momentum going. But Elmwood Brimfield's going to be a hungry team coming off of that tough loss to Anawan Weathersfield in week 1.
Well, I think, yeah, when you look at Rova Williamsfield gets the win in week 1 over, an LVC program that's down, right? So that's a win, and you get that one notched in the win column. But now I think this is your challenge, right? Against historically an Elmwood Brimfield team that's been a playoff contender. Last year they fell a little bit short of the postseason. This year they lose in week 1. So now, can Rova Williamsfield take advantage of that? They're at home. And, that would be a huge start for them to be 2-0, with this program and kind of getting where they need to go or getting where they want to go. So I'm kind of, I want to watch that one and keep tabs on that one for sure. Let's advance the screen here. You have A-Town. Here's an interesting one for you. A-Town going on the road to Anawan Weathersfield. That's a good one. St. Bede going to Bureau Valley in a non-conference game. Havana and Princeville. We've talked about Elmwood Brimfield. We have Rushville Industry and Knoxville. So anything else on that screen? The A-Town Anawan Weathersfield stands out to me.
That's it. I mean, that's the one. How good is A-Town? Right?
Yeah.
We're going to find that out because I think Anawan Weathersfield is going to be good. The 36-0 win in week 1 is certainly not a fluke. So I'm very intrigued to see what A-Town skill players bring to the table on the road in week 2. How about Bureau Valley? Can they get to 2-0 against the St. Bede team that lost to Fulton in week 1? Bureau Valley coming at 2-0 would be a great start to their season as well. So, yes, good games here on the north side, too.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, a few more. Is there anyone we haven't talked about? Illini West?
No, we've seen all of these so far. The one game that we haven't talked about, Rushville and Knoxville, two teams that maybe didn't have great performances in week 1. One of those teams is going to notch a win here, and usually a great game. So we haven't talked about that one yet. So should be another fun week all across the board in the LLC.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, should we get into the Northwest Upstate Illini, Mitch?
Yep.
Here we go. We had there were two big games. I don't want to start with one or the other being bigger. They were both really important games when you look at kind of the landscape of high school football. I'm talking about Bennett Academy going on the road to Lena Winslow, getting the 34-28 win. Ian Giesman rushed for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns on 28 carries. Miles Mann also rushed for over 100 yards. He had 133 on 30 carries, but just not quite enough. Bennett Academy had 2 late passing touchdowns, but overall, it's a challenging non-conference game. Lee Wynn doesn't shy away from anybody. They went toe-to-toe with a team that is potentially 7A with the enrollment multiplier, so just crazy. I mean, to take on the challenge and battle them.
And I think you'll look back, or they will, and say they should have won this game. I think the chances were there. I think they had a late fumble, and that's what led to either Bennett Academy's winning touchdown or their tying touchdown, one of the two. So I think Lena definitely had their chances here. And if you watch the highlights, I mean, they were bringing it to Bennett Academy. Giesman and Mann were really good. And so from the top of the show, I said I am not at all thinking that this game, and we'll talk about the Sockna game next, either one of the results in those two games, based on the way that they played, have any indicator on what the season's going to look like. What it could mean, unfortunately, is that we could see these two teams play in the playoffs earlier than the semifinals, which is not going to be fun and will certainly be a talking point. But regardless, top 2 teams in 1A are in this conference. They're 0-1 to start. they could very well be 0-2. Both of them could be 0-2 at the end of this week too, and I still would vote them as the top teams in 1A. I would.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that, what they've shown on the field year in and year out, and now what they're, the matchups they're willing to take, and I think is a testament to their programs. So we'll look at the other marquee matchup here was El Paso Gridley and Stockton. El Paso Gridley is a really good football team. Stockton also looks to be a really good football team once again.
Well, and this was what? The second-ranked team in 1A against the second-ranked team in 2A?
Yep.
Like, this was a marquee game.
Yeah.
This was a marquee game that just didn't get headlines for whatever reason.
Yep, absolutely. We're giving it the headlines, and Kyle's giving it the headlines, no doubt about it.
Well, we like to, hype ourselves up as being the premier small ball, coverage, 1A and 2A, 3A coverage between our channels and between all of our friends here. So, yeah, we'll give it the credit that it needs because these are two teams, especially that we could be seeing on Friday at State in Illinois State.
Yep.
We very well could see that. So, shout out to Lena Winslow for scheduling Bennett Academy. Shout out to Bennett Academy for coming to Lena for that game. Same thing. El Paso Gridley and Stockton, two really good teams, not afraid to play one another. This was a great game, bogged down by various different rain delays. Shim will be the first one to tell you that as he hung around.
Yeah. Shout out to
Shim.
Night. He didn't get home till like 3 in the morning, whatever it was.
Yeah. I think he said he shaved off a couple minutes because he didn't stop for food. So, he had to make a game time decision there. But no, if anyone's ever questioned Shim Lights, please never do that again. So
no, he is dedicated to the cause.
Great coverage there. But I mean, boy, El Paso Gridley's good.
Yeah.
And I think we got criticized last year for maybe not taking them as seriously as maybe we should have because they were good last year too. But we did know that they were bringing back a ton of people from last year. And so watching these highlights, if you haven't, go on our feed on Friday night or Shim's certainly, and look at the videos and look at the skill players that El Paso Gridley has. They have a ton of speed, a ton of talent. I think they will be a very good contender to Wilmington. I'm not willing to say that they're better than Wilmington just yet, but if we get that game this year, even though we don't cover it, maybe we can that day if it's not the state championship.
Yep. So we kind of buried the lead here, but El Paso Gridley wins the game 41.
People get it. People get it.
El Paso Gridley wins the game 41-20. But Stockton, the score's a little deceiving. Stockton held around for a long time in this one. It was still 27-20 in the fourth quarter before EPG eventually pulled away. Looking through some of the numbers here, Carter Blair ran for 119 yards. Morgan Haas ran for 102 yards. So those are kind of some guys to watch for, names we were familiar with. But credit to Stockton. They hung around, and man, watching the film, this El Paso Gridley team is really hard to stop because they'll spread you out, and they get athletes in space, and they make you miss.
Right, and that's the thing is a couple of those scores are on screen passes, at least 2 of them, maybe even 3 of them. And that might not be a play that Stockton has to defend all that much, and certainly not with the personnel that El Paso Gridley has. So, again, I remain very high on Stockton for the year, and I think it's going to be a fun year for them in the NUIC.
Yep. All right, a few more games in the NUIC. Another big non-conference game here. Foreston gets the win 42-12 over Dwight. Dwight's a team that had made back-to-back quarterfinal appearances, and this year it's Foreston, who we've been excited about, really does the job here in the non-conference, getting the win. Connor Polich rushed 13 times for 109 yards, 2 scores. He completed 2 of his 4 passes for 35 yards and a touchdown. So they don't pass a lot. They don't need to pass a lot, but when they do, they're pretty effective. And I think Connor Polich is going to have a good year. This is a great start.
Yeah, great win for Foreston. I think when we talked to Kyle, this Foreston group was a team that he thinks is going to be the next Stockton, right? They're the team that's going to come up from maybe a couple down years and get back to where we're used to seeing Foreston. So great win here for the Cards.
Yep. Galena gets the win 41-0 over Rushville Industry in this NUIC LCC. Oh, my God.
Right. NUIC LLC crossover. Right.
Yeah, there we go. Easy for me to say. So Galena opens up their new field in dominating fashion. Kyle was out there from NUIC football, said it's great. But Mitch, tell us about these numbers and maybe shades of a former great NUIC running back that you see a little glimpse of here.
Yeah, I mean, you could see from the very first play that Galena was going to dominate this game. And I don't mean to take that away from Rush for Industry because I think Galena is really good. But yeah, they were efficient. Ian Trapp was 4 for 4 passing for 85 yards and a touchdown. The Pirates ran up 315 yards on the ground, led by Eli Shoemaker, who, as you mentioned, Greg, to me, I put this in the notes, reminds me a little bit of Lee Wynn's Alex Schlichting. Very shifty, quick, powerful back, 146 yards and 2 touchdowns on 4 carries.
Yeah.
Also had 2 receptions for 67 yards and a score. He was a finalist for Player of the Week for sure. The Galena defense held Rushville under 100 total yards on the night. So great night for Galena, debuting that new field, debuting that new helmet, and getting a win in week 1.
Yeah, really impressive victory there. More impressive victories for the NUIC. Eastland Pearl City 24-8 over Sandwich. EPC picks up their first win of the season behind 185 rushing yards and 2 scores from Sawyer Williams. Strong performance from the Wildcat defense as well. They shut out Sandwich for the first 3 quarters of this game, building up a 24-0 lead. So really kind of controlling this one, throughout the majority of the game.
Yep. Great win for EPC picking up back from what they did last year. Yep. Great win.
And another win in the NUIC on Saturday, Fulton 32, St. Bede 24. Yeah. So Fulton comes back from trailing 16-0 on the road in the first quarter to get this win. So Mitch, tell us about the details, but that's a big win in week 1 to consider you're facing a 16-point deficit right away in the first quarter.
Well, and after you had to leave and come back, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They went to Peru and had to come all the way back to Fulton, only go back again for a 2 o'clock kickoff, I think it was. So it would have been an late night, early morning. So makes it all the more impressive. But Wyatt Connor, we talked about him a lot last year. 3 first-half touchdowns to pull the Steamers back in front from that 16-0 deficit. Fulton defense came up clutch late in this game, stopping the Bruins on 4th and 1 with 2 minutes left. Fulton was able to run out the clock from there. So congratulations to the Steamers on that big win on the road.
And one more, Dakota gets the win, 34-14 over Clinton. Coy Chris was 14 for 22 passing, 185 yards and 3 touchdowns, connecting with Raylon Seuss, Cannon Calhoun, and Luke Watson. All had big nights. Zeke Wales ran for 48 yards and a score. So another nice non-conference win. Dakota had one last year as well. So you hope that this is a spark for this Dakota team. I know the conference slate is tough, but at least you can find some success here in week 1.
A couple of all-name contenders there on that Dakota roster, too. I mean, Coy Chris and Cannon Cahoon. Are you kidding me? This is great. Good start.
Yeah.
But no, good. In all seriousness, great win for Dakota. Good start to their year.
Yep. All right, well, let's punch up the scoreboard here. Let's look through the games we got coming up. And the NUIC in week 2, brought to you by the state of Wisconsin for some of these games. We'll talk through talk through all of them here. So, Mitch, you had to get real creative with the names and how to fit them all into a graphic for sure.
This is not good. I will admit this was not a good effort by me, but yeah.
So Southwestern, East Dubuque, the co-op over there in Wisconsin, and obviously East Dubuque is on the Illinois side, but they co-op in football. They will go on the road to Galena. You have Fulton going to Ridge Farm in Georgetown. Forreston going on the road to Seneca. There's a nice non-conference matchup there. Dakota will be playing Benton Scales Mound, and that is Shullsburg, Wisconsin as well.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a lot of names to fit onto that scoreboard, Mitch.
Well, we're not even done with Wisconsin just yet either.
Yeah, so let's go to the second board here. Stockton will be going to Blackhawk Warren. You have EPC going on the road to Lawrenceville, and Lena Winslow going to Wisconsin into Darlington. We'll talk about that one in a minute. They're a legit, really good program in the state of Wisconsin. Yeah. And Wilmington traveling to Morrison. Morrison was off last week. They were supposed to play Alleman, so they are getting their first game action here in week 2. But that Lena Winslow Darlington game, back-to-back weeks, Lee Wynn is not afraid of a non-conference opponent. And what is Darlington, a defending state champion?
I think a few times over, maybe, or they've won multiple. I don't know that this is true, but they remind me of a Lena Winslow of Wisconsin type of team.
Yeah,
like they've had that much success. So no, this will be a slugfest. I think we saw some videos from the preseason of Darlington. I think they're going to present a really good challenge to Lena. So should be a great game. Here on the other games that you just brought up. I want to see. I want to see Galena in week 2. I was really impressed with them in week 1. Maybe Rushville Industry isn't. I don't think they're going to be up to par with what Galena sees the rest of the year. So I just want to see how Galena comes out in week 2. Same thing with Fulton. You get a nice win, and now you go on the road to play that beautiful logo at Georgetown Ridge Farm. So I think there's a lot of good games here in the NUIC before they really get into the bulk of their schedule where they play one another.
Yeah, that Forest and Seneca game really catches my eye too. Seneca, a playoff team year in and year out, hosting Foreston, who we, we're pretty high on, and we think that they, have a good core there, and they're really trying to build something. So that's an intriguing matchup to me as well.
And Seneca lost in week 1 to Chicago Christian, our old friends there.
Okay.
Palos Heights.
Okay. I did not realize they lost in week 1. So anyway, I like that. I like that matchup. So, all right, Mitch, anything else in the NUIC?
No, I think because Blackhawk Warren, I think is a fine team as well for Stockton to match up with. So we could legitimately have Lena Winslow and Stockton being 0-2 after 2 weeks. And that'll be a big debate point as to where they should be ranked. Now, granted, they could also both win, and that's a moot point. But still, no matter what happens in those games, given 2 weeks in a row of incredibly quality opponents, I will not think that they aren't the top 2 teams in 1A. I won't.
Yeah, the conversation,
and it's not me, and I'm not being a homer about it.
Yeah,
like if you watch the game, watch the tape, look at the quality of opponents they're playing. There's no reason to not think that they're one of the top 2 teams in 1A.
Yep. I would agree. The conversations could get real interesting, but maybe that's good we're not on Facebook to get the comments, right?
Oh, if that happens again, Kyle's Facebook page might just implode.
And he loves it. He loves every second of it. So...
yeah, no doubt about it.
All right, let's talk some 8-man football. The game I want to start with, the game that really captured my attention going into week 1 was Galva and Milledgeville. Milledgeville gets the win 28-22. This one kind of lived up to the hype. I thought it was going to be a pretty evenly matched game, and it really was. Back and forth throughout the first half. Galva would score late in the third quarter on a 4th and 10 play from MJ Lau connecting with Reed Harris. The 2-point conversion was good, so Galva led 22-14. Milledgeville answers back on a 4th and 7. Kyson Francis finds Max Reimers on a 46-yard touchdown pass. The conversion fails, so it's 22-20. Missiles defense get a stop, and then it's a scramble drill for Francis. He goes 31 yards for a touchdown. From what was described to me from Kyle Leach, who does the play-by-play for Milledgeville, a beautiful scramble with 2 cuts and dodging Wildcat defenders. Francis gads the 2-point conversion. Missiles lead for the first time in the game with 1:08 left. They take the 28-22 lead. Mitch, here's a fun story for you. A key moment in the game as described by Kyle Leach. Coach Roble puts in a foreign exchange student from Brazil, Henrique Abreu, to kick off on the ensuing kickoff. He had not kicked in the game yet and had never kicked in a football game ever. Earlier in the game,
Love it.
they had used a different kicker, and they hadn't really been getting great field position, so they put in Abreu. He boots one over the head of Lauk in Galva. It goes for a touchback, forcing the Wildcats to try to go 80 yards. They would go about as far as 50 yards, but the Missiles would get the stop when they pick, Saunders, trying to find the name, gets the, Parker Saunders gets the interception there as time expired. So just a really great football game, kind of a fun story. The foreign exchange student, specialty teams, Mitch, they come in huge.
Of course, Coach Robo knows all about specialty teams for our friend.
So
Brian Stocking, if you don't know what we're talking about, go watch the Instant Reacts, because Brian Stocking makes a ridiculous claim of a term that does not exist and plays it as if it's common.
But now it's spreading. Now head coach Jade Nord from Stark County is going to be implementing specialty teams in practice.
Well, and Dazza wants shirts printed with it. So, yeah, it's a movement now for these specialty teams.
Yeah. So, great game here. We talked about the Missiles, kind of their turnover on their roster. Kyson Francis is a huge piece to have back, obviously, but freshman Max Reimers had a great night on both sides of the ball. He was a name they were excited about. Misha Soroshin. I'm trying, Mitch. I'm really trying on that name.
Not bad. Not bad.
So he was great on defense. We had talked about Parker Saunders, 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. But overall, a big win for a younger Missile squad. And on the opposite side of the ball, Galva looks to be a really solid team once again. And MJ Lauk, from what I've been told in this game, was a beast. Went over 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He did everything for Galva. He was offense, defense, special teams, everything. So a player to watch and a team to watch in Galva. They came a little bit short in this one, but Milledgeville, I think, really caught my eye in this one for sure.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, you had Polo getting the win 72-24 over Bushnell Prairie City. So Polo with a huge scoring output here. I know Mercer Mumford had a huge impact in it. I don't have his final numbers, but I'm sure that he played a very big part in this one. Looking at the teams,
safe to say.
Yep, looking at the teams we expect to be up there near the top, certainly Amboy. They get the win over Alden Hebron 38-0. Jose Lopez 94 yards, 2 touchdowns. Colt McCoy 82 yards and a touchdown. So what we expected, but a great start for the Clippers.
Well, I think that game ended at halftime, right?
Oh, potentially. Yep, that's true.
I think it did.
Okay, yep. Other wins here in 8-man football, West Carroll 46-13 over South Beloit. You had Ridgewood getting the win in week 1, 56-8 over River Ridge. You had West Central getting the 32-12 win over Flanagan Cornell Woodland. Thanks to head coach Jason Kirby sending some stats here. Aiden Garner, 211 yards and 3 touchdowns. Graham Kelly also over 100 yards and a touchdown. So a nice win there for the West Central Heat, a team to kind of keep your eye on here, as well, like I said, as well as Galva and Ridgewood in that division. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. So, all right, let's read through some games here in 8-man football in week number 2. Milledgeville on the road at Rockford Christian Life, Polo at Ridgewood, Orangeville at Alden Hebron, Amboy at South Beloit, West Carroll at AFC, River Ridge at Kirkland Hiawatha, West Central at Blue Ridge, and St. Anne at Galva. So there's your slate for 8-man football. You know, I think that it's the heavy hitters I think are going to get wins in Amboy and Polo. Ridgewood is a good team, but that's a tough task. Polo seems really good right now. I want to see if Milledgeville can move to 2-0. I think that would be a great sign for a team that, like we said, they're a younger squad trying to build that momentum here.
I look at St. Anne going to Galva, see if Galva can put another good performance up against the St. Anne team that went to the semifinals last year, right? A team that's kind of on the up and up. So, no, definitely some intriguing games in 8-man here in week 2.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, Mitch, I think that wraps us up. I think we've covered everything. So everything to look forward to in week 2. Of course, we'll be back on Friday night, hopefully 10:15. We'll be back live because last week ended up being about 10:45. But let's jump in at 10:15 and go live on the Instant Reacts podcast talking week 2. How's that sound?
Sounds good. I can't wait. Should weather pending, should be a great night for it. Now, are you going to go out, Greg? Have you scouted this out yet? Do you know?
So I think week 2 is going to have to be an off week for me because Casey will be traveling. My son will be playing high school football on the road. So if either I'm going to that game or my wife is going, or if we're all going, the tricky part is I got to get back home by 10:15, right? So it's a road game in Dubuque. So that has some logistics I got to figure out. But no, I do not think I'll be able to shoot high school football this week.
Yeah, I think I will be at a high school game on Friday as well out here. So the X account may be a lot of retweets. So we'll play that by ear on Friday night. But no, we'll be live one way or another Friday night, instant reacts, breaking it all down as best we can to I think a very good slate. So it should be another fun week of high school football.
Yep. One more quick note. We should have mentioned this at the top of the show, but coaches, athletic directors, if you hear us giving a description of your game and maybe you think, oh, I wish they would have talked more about this or said this or this. Hey, we are willing to say as much as you want us to. If you send us the stats, send us the numbers, give us a little snapshot of how the game played out. We'd love to get that information sooner than later. I understand that Friday night or Saturday morning can get chaotic, but by Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, or Sunday morning, if you can send us some info, we would really appreciate it. It just really helps us kind of give a more well-rounded podcast and a look at each week as it went by.
Yeah, and I think I said on one of the shows, even if it's just a picture of the scoring sheet, just send that to us. And even if it's just got numbers on it, as long as we have a roster, we can decipher that. Those hieroglyphics on those stat sheets. So anything you can do, we do this for you and for the kids. So whatever you can help us out with, we appreciate it.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, Mitch, that'll wrap us up. The next time we talk and the next time everybody's listening, it'll be the Instant Reacts. We'll be talking about final scores from week number 2. We will talk to everybody then.
That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. I encourage you to subscribe on YouTube and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on X and Instagram to keep up to date on our latest news and content. You can also contact us through email, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com, to share stats, stories, or information. Thank you to everyone who listens and supports local football.